So last week, if you listened, I basically just came on here and bashed the Giants after a terrible game in Dallas. A week later, they go to Houston, and they look like a completely different team. I personally have not seen the Giants play this well in a long time, and it was amazing to see. Eli Manning looked the best he's had probably in like 3 years. I mean, I think back to that game against the Packers in the playoffs where the Giants lost pretty easily, but Eli Manning looked great that whole game. But overall, there were so many good things to take away from today's game, and just such a difference from last week. And I give a lot of credit to Pat Shurmur for, he actually looked like he had a game plan this week as compared to last week, where the Giants just clearly got out coached. The Giants benching Erik Flowers. I woke up to that this morning. That was one of the best things you could wake up to right there, is seeing a Bleacher Report that Erik Flowers will be benched for Chad Wheeler. So although Wheeler wasn't that great today and definitely got overpowered by J.J. Watt a few times, I mean, it's like, why would you just continue to play Flowers? It really just made no sense. I mean, we know what Flowers is now. I think this is Flowers' fourth season as a starting tackle for our team, and he's showing no improvements. He's still young, but, what else do you need to see? The guy has a shitty attitude. He can't take any criticism, and he's honestly like a cupcake. I mean, this guy, the Giants coaches, whether it was McAdoo, whether it's Pat Shurmur, they would never come out and criticize Flowers. They'd always say, like, oh, he had some good plays, and meanwhile he gave up like 4 sacks in the game and like 10 pressures. But it was nice to see a coach finally take initiative and bench Erik Flowers and put Chad Wheeler in there. And hey, you know what? We're 1-0 in the post Erik Flowers era. I wouldn't even mind if he got released at this point, but we do need depth. So I mean, maybe they'll keep him. I have no idea at this point. But basically about the game, it was a lot of good things we saw, defensively and offensively. And let's start with the offense, because last week I really went in on them, and I kind of feel bad about it now, because a lot of people were just interpreting it the wrong way. People were trying to make it seem like I was blaming 100% of it on Eli, when I was literally saying, like, I blame part of it on coaching and play calling, part of it on the offensive line, and part of it was Eli. I'm sure some of you saw the video I came out with where it was basically Eli in the pocket and showing some open receivers, and a lot of people didn't like that video either. But I mean, we just gotta be realistic here. There were plays that could have been made in that Dallas game, but they definitely fixed it today. And I mean, I can't be more satisfied with what I saw. Eli Manning was just out there slinging it like Matt Patricia with challenge flags. It was crazy. I mean, Eli pretty much almost had 300 yards, threw for a couple touchdowns, and he was 25 for 29 completions. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, this guy was just, honestly looked like a backyard football game. He was just out there slinging it. Saquon looked great. Wayne Gallman was pretty good. Jonathan Stewart even averaged 4 yards a carry, but it was only 2 carries, so it could have been worse for Jonathan Stewart. Odell Beckham, of course, looked terrific. Over 100 yards, 9 catches. Sterling Shepard, 6 catches, 80 yards, a touchdown. Awesome game from him. Rhett Ellison stepped in after Evan Engram hurt his ankle or knee. I forget what it was. He came out pretty early. But guys were making contributions and stepping up, and that's exactly what you want to see from your offense. The Giants definitely have enough talent, and, the reason I criticized Eli last week is because he honestly looked like a rookie last week. It was crazy. I mean, it looked like he's never played in the NFL. And then this week, he looked like a veteran. He was making, changing plays at the line. He was standing confidently in the pocket, and he's looked the best he's had in years. So I'm really satisfied with what I saw, and just, I don't know if it was getting Erik Flowers off the line that just, all of a sudden made Eli this more confident quarterback. But if that's it, then shit, we got ourselves a good quarterback again. So I'm happy about that, and it's definitely, there's a lot to look forward to now with the Giants. And defensively, some guys had some really big games. I mean, I like to give a shout out to Kerry Wynn, who is usually like our preseason hero, who just tends to have amazing preseasons. But today he was great. He was batting down balls at the line of scrimmage. He had 5 tackles and was just providing pressure over and over again. You got to give credit to Alec Ogletree for that incredible interception he had. I mean, most linebackers aren't going to make that play, and I've honestly been really surprised with how good Alec Ogletree's been in coverage this year. I remember I went to the first preseason game for the Giants, and David Njoku ran that seam route against Ogletree, and he looked clueless, and Theo Riddick in another preseason game ran a route, and it just completely fooled Ogletree. So far, he's looked great in coverage. You got to be satisfied with that. Lorenzo Carter, who's looked terrific, also had a sack. B.J. Hill had one. Mario Edwards, who we got from the Raiders, I believe, had one. So there were guys just making plays all over the field. Curtis Riley was providing some big hits. Damon Harrison clogging up the middle as he always does. Landon Collins improved from last week. And, the loss of Eli Apple really didn't show today. I mean, Will Fuller did have some big plays, but some of that was garbage time as well. But, B.W. Webb, who had a nice play on the Texans' first drive to knock away an end zone, to knock away a touchdown, basically. That was a nice play. Another guy, Dante Dion, stepped up, made some plays for us as well. So the Giants' coverage today wasn't really that bad. DeAndre Hopkins did not go off on us, so Janoris Jenkins deserves a lot of credit for that as well. They really didn't throw to Hopkins that much. I mean, I don't know what the target numbers are, but from what I remember, he wasn't peppered with targets like they should have done. And Deshaun Watson really didn't look himself today, but you just got to take advantage of that. And the Giants defense definitely did a good job of containing him and not letting their offense break out. The Texans running game was just non-existent today. I mean, it really had to come through the air, and I've always been a big fan of the Giants run defense, and today proves why I'm a big fan of that. And Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue aren't the best backs, but the Texans also don't have a great offensive line. So the Giants did what they had to do to shut down that run game, and you got to be satisfied with that. So let me be honest here. I mean, does winning this one game automatically turn our season around and make us a playoff team? I mean, I still think no. I mean, before the season started, I predicted 8-8 for this team, and I still believe they're a 7 or 8 win team at this point. If they got to 9-7, I mean, it wouldn't be that surprising. But so far, the NFC East has not looked that great. The Eagles almost lost to the Colts today. The Redskins did beat the Packers, but I mean, the best team in the NFC East right now is 2-1. We're 1-2. Dallas is 1-2, and I mean, it's kind of Seattle basically manhandled Dallas today. It really wasn't a close game. So losing to Dallas last week looks a lot worse now than it was before. We probably should be 2-1 and 1-0 in the division, which really sucks, but it is what it is. And now we're 1-2. If you look ahead to next week, we're gonna be home for the Saints. I thought we were at the Saints, but we're home, so that's great news. But we definitely have a tough schedule coming up. Our next 4 games is going to be home versus the Saints, at Carolina, home for Philadelphia, then at Atlanta. So definitely a tough 4 games coming up for the Giants. So I don't know what to expect next week. The Saints defense has not been as good as it was last year, if you've been keeping up with them. They were in a shootout game with the Falcons today and ended in overtime. The Saints did win, so they're coming off a very, very impressive win there. So the Giants should be able to put up points on them, definitely. I mean, if you look at who the Saints have played this year, that Ryan Fitzpatrick week 1 went off against them. The Browns should have had them beat. So the Saints definitely aren't the juggernaut that they were last year, so I think we do have a shot. But it really just depends on putting up points. I mean, it's going to be that the Saints and Drew Brees are going to put up points. They're not as good on the road as they are at home, but they're definitely going to put up some points. Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara have been incredible this year, so they're going to be really tough to stop. Hopefully we have Vernon and Apple back next week. That would be a big help. I hope we have a fully healthy defense. And I do expect Wheeler to start again next week. I would not be opposed for the Giants trading for a right tackle, but as I said, offensive linemen don't grow on trees, and a lot of teams aren't going to trade them, so we kind of just have to deal with what we have right now. But there's no reason to play Erik Flowers again unless there's an injury to to anyone, you know what I mean, whether it's Solder or Wheeler. So I expect the same offensive line next week as we saw this week. It worked. Eli looked more confident. And if he can bring that same confidence next week home against New Orleans, then maybe we're looking at 2-2. But we'll see what happens, and I'll talk to you guys after that game. Let's go Giants, and I'll see you guys after the Saints game. And one more side note, I did tweet out on I think Saturday morning that Justin Herbert, the quarterback for Oregon, was playing against Stanford on Saturday night, and he was he's projected to be the first quarterback to go in the draft next year. I do expect the Giants to take a quarterback next year, but really, who the hell knows? It's really early, but this kid looked incredible. I mean, you guys should really check him out if you're into that kind of stuff. Justin Herbert for Oregon. He looked incredible. I mean, this guy is 6'6", 220 something, and he's a dual threat quarterback. Was fitting balls into really tight windows. He really looked great. So his team lost, but still individually he looked amazing. And he's a guy I'm going to keep a close eye on for the future, and he could possibly be a Giant one day. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. And if you want to give that a look, then go ahead. But I'll see you guys next week.